What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video here. We have a lot to discuss as we get into what is most likely going to be yet another absolutely insane trading week. We saw an insane amount of volatility on Friday. We're going to be breaking down everything that is going on here and giving you guys a good idea of what to expect next so that everybody can go out and make better, more well-informed decisions. And as always, we're going to be talking about some of your favorite names here, guys. Neo, Palantir, Sofi, and HIMS, breaking down the most relevant pieces of news happening with those companies individually, and also the charts here to give you guys a better understanding of what to expect in the short term. So before we get into all of that information, guys, if you guys do enjoy the information and analysis that I provide for you guys in these videos here, make sure you go down and hit that like button. Costs you nothing to do it, but it helps me out a whole lot in spreading this information out to as many people who actually want to learn. And again, if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you guys are and turn on notifications so you're notified every time these videos do end up getting posted live. And as always, massive shout out to all of the members of my private trading and investing community, Less Trades, More Profits. We have been on, quite honestly, a generational run here, guys. There's not a single other person out here that can show you guys 29 10x trades called out to their group over the last 2.5 months here. Again, we are doing things that the trading community has literally never seen before. I get it, guys. Me coming out and showcasing these types of results to you guys every single week is absolutely nuts, but I told you 5 10x trades ago, 10 10x trades ago, 15 10x trades ago, 20, 25, and now 30, that this is just going to keep happening. Once you guys see how simple what we are doing in the market actually is, again, one of the most common pieces of feedback that I receive is not only how easy this actually is for everybody, but everybody always wishes that this is what they were doing all along in their trading journey there. So if you guys are interested in hopping in there with us and getting yourself on that path to actually having the success that you deserve in the market, make sure you guys check out that link down below. Use code October, get 50% off your first month, and join up with the winning team there. So let's get into it over here, guys. Again, just taking a look at the chart of the S&P 500 here, we have an absolute kill candle here. The S&P was down about 2.7% on Friday after some very key pieces of news were released, which we are obviously going to be talking about in this video here in a second. We also saw some insane amounts of liquidations in the crypto market, a lot of altcoins getting wiped out over the past 24 hours. Bets worth more than $19 billion have been wiped out, and more than 1.6 million traders liquidated according to CoinGlass data. More than 7 billion of these positions were sold in less than 1 hour of trading on Friday. So a lot of that excess leverage in the market is now taken out. So what actually was driving price action on Friday? I think a lot of you guys have seen this so far, but Donald Trump did come out and announce some more measures here against China. It has been learned that China has taken an extraordinarily aggressive position on trade in sending an extremely hostile letter to the world stating that they were going to, effective November 1st, 2025, impose large-scale export controls on virtually every product they make, and some not even made by them. This affects all countries without exception and was obviously a plan devised by them years ago. Now, the United States of America will impose a tariff of 100% on China over and above any tariff that they currently are paying. Also, on November 1st, we will impose export controls on any and all critical software. So what Donald Trump is saying here is that this is really about China putting these export controls on all of their products. But with what we've seen in the news, and one of the most important things that this Trump administration has been trying to figure out has been related to a lot of these rare earths export controls. Now, again, China recently has further tightened export restrictions on rare earths ahead of talks between President Donald Trump and Xi Jinping at the end of the month. The country produces over 90% of the world's processed rare earths and rare earth magnets and has used export restrictions to throttle shipments. Now, again, these export controls have had a major impact since the United States is heavily reliant on China for rare earths. Between 2020 and 2023, 70% of U.S. imports of rare earths compounds and metals came from the country, according to a U.S. Geological Survey report. So this is a big deal and a very big point of contention between China and the U.S. as these negotiations have been continuing over the last couple of months here. Now, obviously, this situation is going to start to unfold, and we're going to see some more headlines about this over the next couple of trading days and obviously the next couple of weeks. But there are a couple of things that I really want to start discussing with everybody before we start getting into some of these individual names here. Now, guys, there is a very big difference between the behaviors of amateur market participants and professional market participants and kind of the overall thought process they have as it comes to the market, especially in times like this. When you start to see big movements and crazy things starting to happen in the market, what a lot of people will do, the amateurs out there, will try and rush in to start taking action. They'll start buying short-dated options. They'll start selling things, buying things, and taking a lot of action in the market here. Now, in times like these, guys, when there is a increased level of uncertainty and we easily could see a further drawdown in the market, the best decision, in my opinion, is to do nothing. A lot of people think that the only action in the market is to long or too short, but almost 95% of the time that you are operating in the market, the best position is to remain in cash or to do nothing and not take any additional action until you get more clarity. These are the times in the market after these big sorts of events start to happen here that you could do real damage to your portfolios, and I want to make sure that everybody is keeping themselves safe. I say this all the time in the live streams to you guys, especially as it relates to trading. I am never in a rush to do anything in the market. All we are looking to do is take high quality A+ setups in really, really solid market conditions. And when it comes to the investing side, there is a time and a place to be taking action when that time comes. Like I told you guys, really close to the bottom there, back during that Liberation Day fiasco, then we can start kind of dipping our toe back into the market. But as of right now, we still need to wait and see what is going to happen moving forward. So let's start talking about a couple of these individual names here. The first one that I want to talk about is NEO. Now, NEO has been on a really, really solid stretch of great performance over the last few months here. Again, NEO was one of those 29 to 30 10x trades that I handed out. Again, this was another one that I handed out for free to you guys on Twitter. At this point, you really don't have much of an excuse to not be nailing these trades just over the last couple of weeks here. I mean, I gave you guys that Johnson & Johnson one. That trade, I believe, is still sitting up about 900% going into this next trading week, showing a lot of strength when the market is pulling back. But again, what you have to think about with NEO, and something that I say time and time again, is that with NEO's current situation as a business, really there's not a whole lot to do in terms of analysis in the short term. Like, yes, we can take a look at some of the updates, which we are going to in a second here. But going into next year, the kind of the first half and second half of next year are really, really important for NEO to really showcase to investors and to their shareholders if they are actually going to be able to meet those profitability metrics that they have outlined as being their goals over the last couple of years. Remember, NEO's been kind of the king of over-promising and under-delivering here, and seeing them being able to actually meet those goals could easily re-rate them over 10, 15, and potentially even higher if their results are incredibly solid. So this is something that we were talking about a lot on the live stream on Friday there, and I talk about this every day. You have to be thesis driven with your investments, and we've talked a lot about Philip Morris in the past as being a really, really good example of this, and I want to talk about this very briefly with you guys here. So again, in LTMP, I do give out some of these big single stock research reports. Again, I have between 5 and 10 really high quality A+ ideas every single year, and I go out and hammer them. Philip Morris was one of these last year, and right around this area at $95 a share is where I was outlining Philip Morris to everybody. And one of the main kind of pillars of the thesis was the significant year-over-year growth of Zinn shipments coming into the United States. Philip Morris owns Swedish Match. Swedish Match produces Zinn. So again, that's the connection there. We then ended up seeing a very, very nice move to the upside from 95 all the way up to 186. And you also got not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 very, very solid dividend payments before the first time the thesis actually started to change. And the thesis kind of changer right here was this earnings report was kind of the first time that you saw year-over-year Zinn shipments coming into the United States and kind of just in general moving to the downside. So that is the time that you want to be taking profits there, not just off of some arbitrary price level. So again, you got to be thesis driven with your investing here, and it allows you to really tune out a lot of the other noise that really just isn't all that relevant in the short term. But again, going back to NIO here, NIO delivers 34,749 cars in September, buoyed by strong performance of Envo and Firefly. This marks the second consecutive month of record deliveries for NIO, bringing third quarter deliveries to a record 87,071 units. Again, very, very positive developments here, and NIO is continuing to move in a positive direction here. Now, moving on to Palantir. So, again, this has been a chart that has been kind of on our minds, especially in LTMP recently, kind of thinking about if we want to kind of look for a trade on this with this break to the upside. We have had a little bit of a wonky chart here, especially with these big candles that we have started to see. So I've been really looking to leave this one alone. But just like I've said time and time again with Palantir, again, this was one that I gave out to everybody in LTMP and who have been watching these streams here in everything that I do on YouTube. In the $15 range, the stock is at $175. This is not one that you go out and buy at these current valuations, but it's definitely not one that you want to go out and necessarily short. Again, they are continuously doing everything that they need to as a business to grow their government contracting side, their commercial revenue side as well. And I do think that they are going to continue to have a lot more success in the marketplace, but we do have to be aware of the fact that the market is going to start holding this one to a higher standard with the current valuation and the aggressive valuation that it is currently commanding in the marketplace. Now, again, some positive news over here. We do have one Bank of America analyst recently raising the bar in terms of Palantir price targets, setting a street high target of $215 for the stock. Now, and for those of you guys that know me, I really don't care about analyst price targets. If you look at the performance, and just price targets in general, if you look at the performance of a lot of these analysts, they're absolutely horrible. But what you can see, again, in the short term, is a little bit of buying pressure coming in off of some of these price target upgrades. Again, on a day like Friday, and what we've seen throughout this week, it's going to be very, very difficult for any of these names here out there. It doesn't matter what the stock is to catch a bid, especially in this growth space, in software space, with everything that was happening on Friday. But again, we can view this as kind of a net positive for Palantir there. Now, let's start talking a little bit about Sofi. Again, there's not much to kind of talk about here as it relates to news, and then kind of looking at this chart here, we have a very, very nasty candle here on the daily time frame. Remember, we were talking about this being a potential setup going into next week with this nice period of consolidation after the little trend shift that we saw. Now, with a lot of the volatility that we were seeing on Friday, that wasn't really a trade that I was looking to take. I wanted to kind of preserve capital here and make sure that we were able to kind of wait things out, see where the kind of the chips were going to fall going into next week. But remember, I own Sofi at $6.55. That was when I highlighted it to LTMP. And for those of you guys out on just kind of the broad internet here, I gave out Sofi in the weekly breakout at $13.60 as well. You are still almost up, even with that candle to the downside yesterday, almost 100% off of that weekly break to the upside there. So again, I still think Sofi is going to have a lot of success in the marketplace. But again, we are going to see that volatility in the short term. Now, the last name that I want to talk about with you guys that a lot of you guys are always pretty interested in is HIMS. Now, HIMS, we've been taking a look at daily charts in this video so far. Now we're going to take a look at a weekly chart. Now, this is a very solid weekly chart that I'm looking at here on HIMS. We have a nice move to the upside, very solid period of consolidation here, and if we are able to break above that $60.55 area, it is very possible that you could get that pre-earnings run-up back into these highs of like 67, 70, 50 there, maybe even those recent highs at 73 as well. But again, a little caveat to this is we easily could see a very, very volatile market going into next week here and over the next few weeks. Now, with what I will say too, a lot of people are going to start kind of talking about this this kind of phrase that they talk about with Trump, and that's taco. Trump always chickens out. And it did sound a little bit yesterday that he was starting to kind of walk some things back. There were some headlines coming out in the morning that they canceled the meeting between President Trump and President Xi. Trump comes out and says, no, we didn't cancel the meeting. So again, we are going to have to wait for some more developments on this. But again, if we do end up seeing a positive development and these trade talks moving in the positive direction here, we easily could see some very, very fun volatility back to the upside and in the other direction here. So guys, that is going to wrap up this video here. If you guys did enjoy the information and analysis that I provided for you guys in this one, make sure you go down and hit that like button. Costs you nothing to do it, but it helps me out a whole lot in spreading this information out to as many people who actually want to learn. And again, if you aren't subscribed yet, make sure you guys are. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.